When it comes to homeostasis in the endocrine system, there is not a better case study than the thyroid hormone negative feedback loop. So in this video, we're going to go through the simple negative feedback loop of the thyroid hormone, specifically T3 and T4, and see how it interacts with other organs in the process so that we maintain homeostasis. Hey everybody, Mr. J here from Organized Biology. So let's get started first with the thyroid hormone itself. So I want you to know that the thyroid will contain hormones inside of its cells called T3 and T4. So it's a blend of hormones. The majority will be T3, and that's going to do a variety of things for your body in terms of metabolism, kicking your cells into gear to do the functions they need to do. However, in order to release that into the bloodstream and go everywhere to all the cells of the body, it needs a trigger. Its trigger is going to come from the anterior pituitary, which will contain a hormone called, as you could probably guess, thyroid-stimulating hormone, or otherwise known as TSH. And it's nice when these hormones tell you what they do, because it's going to stimulate the thyroid to release its own hormones. So TSH has to be released to trigger the thyroid to release T3 and T4. But what's interesting about that is that the anterior pituitary also needs a trigger, and its trigger is going to come from hypothalamic neurons, so neurons originating in the hypothalamus, releasing another hormone called TnRH. That stands for thyrotropin, I'll break the word down in a second, thyrotropin-releasing hormone. Okay, what all does this mean? Well, anytime we see tropin in the name of a hormone, it means it's going to talk to a different endocrine gland to tell it to release its own hormone. I'll say it again. A tropin or a tropic hormone is going to tell a different endocrine gland to release its own hormone. So if you follow the sequence, we're going to have TnRH trigger TSH release, which will then trigger T3, T4 release, okay? And to complete the cycle, we need to have a way to control this whole process. So I want to begin first with the hypothalamic neuron. Why? Because the hypothalamus starts with an H and it deals with all overarching homeostasis. So we have to start with this neuron because he's going to kickstart the whole process. Now, as you notice, this neuron has receptors inside of it, and these are going to be specifically receptors for T3 and T4. So think of this neuron as basically testing the blood, testing to see, hey, how much T3 and T4 do we have in the blood currently? And if you notice right now, the way I've drawn it, there is no T3 and T4 in the blood. So I want to point to this, point to the receptors, and I'm going to say no T3 and T4 stimulates this neuron. Okay, so the lack of T3 and T4 will basically trigger that neuron to be like, oh, I better get going to trigger this cascade of events to get T3 and T4 into the bloodstream. So again, it's the absence of T3, T4 that triggers and stimulates this neuron. So the neuron, in response to that, will get positively charged. It's called an action potential. It'll send that action potential down its long axon, and it's going to eventually stimulate the release of a neuropeptide, in this case, the hormone, thyrotropin-releasing hormone, into the bloodstream. Okay, so now we've got some TnRH in the bloodstream, and we know the blood is a river of life. It goes everywhere, so it can interact with any tissue in the body, essentially. So as you notice, thyrotropin-releasing hormone will come down and bind to a receptor on the anterior pituitary gland cells dealing with TSH. Now notice this receptor is called a G protein coupled receptor, GPCR for short, and it's just a receptor that's going to receive some sort of a hydrophilic or peptide hormone and trigger an intracellular response. The response in this case, when TnRH bind to it, is we're going to activate this G protein, a specific subunit within it. It's going to increase, interestingly, calcium in the cell because calcium likes to push things, and that will eventually push this vesicle containing TSH out to release the TSH into the bloodstream. Okay, so that was a lot there. We had a receptor being triggered. G protein activates. G protein increases calcium amount inside the cell by opening some channels, and then we're going to push this vesicle out because calcium likes to push things. Pushes the vesicle out, releases thyroid-stimulating hormone. Now you can probably guess, thyroid-stimulating hormones in the blood, it goes everywhere, and he is going to interact here with the thyroid gland itself, where you notice another G protein coupled receptor. So, same thing, TSH binds here, G protein will activate, G protein activates, opens up the calcium channels again, calcium helps to push out this vesicle containing, as we talked about, T3 and T4. So that's the chain of events. However, once T3, T4 gets into the bloodstream, now we've got this hormone all present in the blood, and we're going to come back and interact with the hypothalamic neuron. Once this T3 and T4 starts binding, interestingly enough, what do you think it will do to the neuron? Well, remember the absence of T3 and T4 stimulated it. So now the presence of T3 and T4, presence of, I can't write and talk at the same time, presence of T3 and T4 will inhibit the neuron. So now, since we've got those receptors binding to T3, T4, we're going to make the neuron negative in this case. We're not going to send that action potential, and we're going to stop releasing TnRH. Now, the goal of that, right, is that if we stop releasing TnRH, we stop releasing thyroid-stimulating hormone, and therefore we stop releasing T3 and T4. Now, what if the T3, T4 levels get low again? Well, obviously, he'll be stimulated in that case, and the cycle will continue. Now, what's important here is that T3 and T4 is considered a chronic hormone secretion. In other words, you should have the same amount of this hormone about throughout your entire life. So it should stay constant. So the way we've controlled this is through a negative feedback loop, right? We had little hormone, T3, T4 hormone. We triggered it to be produced. We got it to the right level. But then if the levels start going down, guess what? We're going to produce more. If the levels went too high, if these levels get too high, what will it do? Well, it will inhibit this neuron and prevent more T3 and T4 from being produced. So what's interesting is that sometimes you can have disease states. So I'm going to jot down a couple disease states here. So the first disease state we're going to talk about is going to be hyperthyroidism. This is categorized by too much T3 and T4. So a lot of the times this is actually caused by a cancer of the thyroid gland. So now the thyroid gland is dividing and growing rapidly, and we're just making way too much of the hormone. So we're dumping a bunch of T3 and T4 into the bloodstream. Okay? So it's classified by too much T3, T4, by definition, high T3, T4. But guess, what would our levels of TnRH be? And what will our levels of TSH be? Well, in this scenario, if we have a lot of this, we are binding to all of the receptors, and therefore we are really inhibiting this neuron. So you would actually guess, if we're inhibiting him, we will have very little TnRH. So it is classified by low TnRH, and if there's too little TnRH, who also will be low? TSH, right? So we'll also have low TSH. Does that kind of make sense? Let me know in the comments below. However, if we have hypothyroidism, we classify that as a lack of T3 and T4, right? Low T3, T4. Sometimes that's because of an autoimmune disease where we're actually attacking and killing the cells of the thyroid. So now maybe you hardly have any thyroid cells. Therefore, you have very little T3 and T4. Well, in that case, little T3, T4, what's going to happen? Well, if we don't have it, we're going to stimulate this guy. Who's going to stimulate this guy, right? So therefore, in this case, TnRH would be quite high, as well as TSH. Okay? So that is a disease state of the thyroid, hyper and hypothyroidism. And what would happen to the hormone levels that are attempting to maintain this negative feedback loop and homeostasis of T3 and T4? So clinical examples are great. Go ahead and watch the next video to understand more hyper and hypo states of hormones.